My name is Giacomo Marchese. I am the co-founder of Vegan Proteins. I'm also the co-founder of Plant Built. I work with Vegan Strong. I went vegan for health reasons, and it stuck as a lifestyle. Eventually, I connected what was on my plate with my environment and with other sentient beings. I'm an animal, just like every other animal in this world, except I'm a human being. So why would I eat another animal? It didn't make sense to me. So stuck with it because I felt like it would be a healthier way to lead by example and help people reverse disease, avoid disease, feel better, be more energetic, perform better as an athlete, whatever they wanted to do with their life, better quality of life. And then when I realized the environmental impact and the impact on others around me, there was no mistaking it. It had to stick.
And you went vegan because of health reasons. Talk about that a little bit more.
Well, sure. I dated somebody, their mom had a heart attack. The doctors were like, here are a couple pills, here's some surgery, and you'll be all right. Just stop stressing out so much. And I looked at them like they had 4 heads. I'm like, how is this possible? This is not the answer. And so I did some research, and I was like, okay, well, why would I want to pollute my body with things that would slow down blood flow and oxygen getting through my system? It just didn't make sense. You know, it took time because I have emotions and I can't get past them. No one can get past their feelings. However, eventually you process things and you're like, there's absolutely no reason to do this. Then you get the proof where you're like feeling better, your body's recovering faster, you're more energetic, and then you make a connection with the world and others around you, and there's just no denying it. Like, this is just the way to be.
Did you look into the health aspect to make sure like it was safe also?
Yes, but the logic was so simple, there was really nothing to look into. Why would I want to clog up my arteries? Why would I want to make it harder for me to be able to breathe? You can deconstruct this till the day is long. You can create any sort of narrative you want, but like, it's really a no-brainer. There's just no reason around not taking better care of your insides.
Yeah, but don't most people think it's like necessary to eat animals?
Look, I love the taste of meat. I loved the taste of dairy. I had a personal connection with what was on my plate. I still do when I have dinner with others, and I'm reminded of all the times that I ate things that came from an animal or that were an animal was slaughtered for, whatever. Like, I still have those connections. I still have those memories. I still have an emotional attachment to it. I just choose not to eat food that comes from an animal or that an animal was killed for. This was a long time ago. We didn't have access to information as easily back then.
What year was it again?
2004.
You say you did it for health and you didn't have a lot of access to information. You just self-educated somehow.
I had influence. I had a superhero in my corner before protein powder was accessible and pea protein powder was coming on the market. That was like a sticking point for me from like that old school kind of stuff. And Mike Maller was slinging pea protein, and I'm like, this dude's doing it. I had my social proof on the internet back in 2004, and then I had access to that stuff in bulk, so I felt like I could afford it. For me, that was sort of the change where I felt like it was okay, and I started experimenting. It was a long 2-year transition, and then I made a promise to myself on my birthday, so I couldn't betray. Like, I wanted to just stamp that date in my mind. I'm never going back after this day, and then it stuck.
And you became that committed due to health.
Due to health and due to performance reasons, yeah.
Wow. So I guess you came to the conclusion that eating animals is not necessary, but also unhealthy.
As is exploiting animals for any reason whatsoever. It's not just what's on your plate. And I learned many lessons after the fact, the hard way, especially being a public-facing person and then having to reckon with that. Stuff's hard to deal with, but the more vulnerable you can become, the more of an example you can set for others, that it is really that important. It is bigger than whatever I will be putting out there over the course of my lifetime, that this is the only way to stop destroying the earth.
And then the ethical component, how has that maybe changed over time?
Well, you learn a lot of lessons, and you just wind up having a better bias towards going after the information that makes you have a better understanding of what exactly it is that we're doing to the world. And it's environmental. The animal exploitation is undeniable. It's maddening when you really start to think about it. And unfortunately, when you're too busy caught up in an argument of whether or not this is good for your health, like anything else, it can be harder for you to gain access to that information. So I only wish that I did it sooner, I guess, but I'm really grateful that I'm a part of something that is, in my opinion, the only way that we could potentially exist going forward. One, you can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unknow what you know.
Was there a time before you did all of this that you thought, there's no way I could do that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I was a kid, so yeah. When you're a kid, you think that you're going to live forever. When you're a kid, you think that you know everything. And you're still learning, right? You're still learning from others. You're still learning on your own. You still have everything that you were pre-programmed with and that you programmed for yourself. And of course, yeah, it takes time to change, right? And I was extremely judgmental of others because I had to also prove to myself that this is what I wanted to do. Like, that's my ego speaking, right? So it's like you learn and you regret, but you keep going forward, right? Sorry, I'm being a little like vague and scattered here, but the point, Jeff, is that it just takes time to come full circle. And as supportive as an environment as I feel like the vegans are, like the type of environment we create, no one's immune to taking the wrong approach or pissing somebody off. And it's like anything I can say, anything I can do to make people feel more included, more welcome, more supported so that they can make this decision faster by any means, like, yes, I'm all in. I didn't think it was possible, you know? I went back time and time again, and it was like a long transition for me. And I had like, you know, family was against me, the choices that I made in life that got me to be who I was, like everything, you know, people like thought I was a little bit crazy, you know, and they maybe got like a rise out of that. You know, I don't mind being an underdog, I kind of like it that way, but it's still hard on you. It's still hard on you to not be sure of yourself and what you're doing.
So you went vegan for the health. Tell us a little bit more about that. Did you have health issues, or did you just like learn something and you're trying to do something protective here?
Well, I didn't have any health issues per se, and I was trying to find an answer on how I could continue to take complete control over my body and do whatever I wanted with it as a bodybuilder to become stronger and more aesthetic, get my X frame, maximize my genetic potential. And I just kept getting into information that led me down a path where I could be healthier and healthier, recover faster, perform better, and all roads pointed to me going vegan. Quite frankly, to be completely transparent, I just wanted to just bleed out and be the most competitive athlete that I could possibly be. And I felt like this was the turning point for me, where I could experiment with how I was eating and somehow do it. I just figured things out like everyone else in my 20s, but at this point in my life, there's no looking back. Like, this is how I need to eat, and this is how I need to be in order to be as driven as I can be, to be as competitive as possible, and more importantly, you know, as I age, but more importantly, to make it a way that I can facilitate others, like, to be as competitive as they can be, you know? So we work with other athletes, and we create an environment for them where they can really thrive, they can really be supported, and they could just go out into the field and just kill it, essentially. I mean, don't get me wrong. Listen, Jeff, if there is a reason for me to be more competitive and to place, that's going to be part of it. That's never going to change. That is me. I live and die that way. I'm an athlete. I'm competitive. I'm not planning on retiring. You know, it's not just about me though. It's about our team. It's about those that we coach, right? I want people to be able to believe that they can do this, no matter what their life circumstances are, no matter what they're going through, no matter what they're feeling, right? No regrets. Like, you can figure it out. You can find a way to be the next best version of yourself.
What did you notice physiologically, mentally, or emotionally after you went vegan that changed?
Physically, I noticed that my health was improving.
How so?
Well, I kept doing what I needed to do programming-wise to get stronger, eating a certain way, training a certain way, and I wasn't getting hurt. You know, I was continuing to progress. So that was enough proof for me that I could keep going. And then I started to learn the reasons why. Okay, so plants have all the nutrients. Well, duh, if you just flood your body with nutrients, obviously your systems are going to be working better, right? I just trusted that that would be a thing, while knowing that I'd be far less likely to have heart disease by taking care of myself. So I just noticed that my body was just performing and recovering a lot better. Mentally, I had a reason. You know, I'm not a spiritual kind of person. I don't attach myself to philosophy or religion or anything like that. For whatever the reason. I mean, fine, read a book. That stuff is out there. But for me, I need like something that actually means something to me. Living a life that is responsible to the environment, where I'm going to do less harm, and living a life that is responsible to other species, where I'm going to do less harm. To me, like, that kept me going. That gave me the push, right? I learned very early in life that like philosophy, religion, none of that stuff, not even people. These things did not motivate me. And it wasn't my ego that motivated me either, but I needed a reason to be more competitive. So I'm doing it for the animals, I'm doing it for the environment, you know? Like, haven't we destroyed this world enough? Like, how could we destroy it less? I fund my way through it to be able to get to a healthier place mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, right? I didn't really think about it too much, but eventually life just keeps challenging you and testing you. And I think emotionally I've completely changed. As a human, I am a completely different person because I chose to go vegan, and I am eternally grateful for that.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of it might have been more psychological, I guess.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what do you do when you meet more and more people and they're your people? You wind up becoming unintentionally influenced, and you just trust that on the way in and on the way out. As you're learning more about yourself, you're like, okay, I got to keep making choices like this. But I hate to think of veganism as something that is dogmatic, dietarily speaking, and you have to challenge that constantly. Otherwise, the wrong information can be manipulated, and then people like wind up creating arguments that will talk themselves out of choosing something that is better for their health, that is more compassionate. It's definitely more of a psychological thing, because information is something that's free-flowing, and so when you're trying to come to something and you really don't know where you're going with it, you can wind up using that information as an argument against making a change. I love different reasons for getting people to go vegan. I also love attacking the dogma that can be created around that unintentionally, so that it is an undeniable choice. That because it is that important for the people, for the planet, for the animals, to get there as fast as you can.
So if you hadn't done this, how might you be different?
Well, I wouldn't think twice about what was on my plate. I wouldn't think twice about justifying what I do. I would just do it. I would hunt and kill. I would buy my local whatever, meat, and just fool myself into thinking that I'm making that choice most of the time, so it's okay, right? But you know better than that once you know.
What do you think was the most powerful thing to make you know, that you experienced, that really you hold? Like for me, it was Gary Yourofsky. Is there anything like that for you that was really the most impressive catalyst?
I definitely took all of the social support from vegan bodybuilding and fitness. That forum, that bulletin board, if you will, back in the day was a game changer for me. It gave me a sense of community, a sense of belonging, and it made a world of a difference for me, knowing that this was the kind of environment that it was more than just something on the internet. This is the way people lived. That to me was a turning point for sure.
So it sounds like you were kind of fortunate in that you were able to find your tribe. It seems like it might have happened pretty early in your vegan journey.
Well, it happened in my early 20s, and I'm pretty grateful for somehow being connected to that, yeah. I mean, I got to some dark places down my path as well that I look back and I'm like, this stuff is gonna haunt me forever, so I should just hide in a corner and be in my house and never put my face on camera, worry about what people are thinking about me, worry about how I feel about myself. But it's like, really? Like, life is too short for that stuff. What do I even care? Like, why would I let that hold me back from putting myself out there and hoping that it can impact just one person? Just one person for a short period of time just makes a difference. So.
But in regard to your tribe, and the reason why I was asking that is, a lot of people, including myself, find it hard to find other like-minded people, and it might make it really challenging. But for you, it seems like you were able to find like-minded people, and they were a big inspiration and a big part of, you doing this to begin with, I think. Is that right?
Oh my gosh. And sometimes I have to keep blinking or just snapping my fingers thinking about, is this stuff real? Like, Is this really the way people live? Is this the kind of belonging that you can feel when you're making the right choices and decisions? Because you are the only one, free will, that is in control of you. And the answer is yes. It really is that magical and that special, and it transcends you and what you're doing, because it's not about either of that. It's just about being on the right path.
I guess back in 2004, that might have been a little easier. It might be a little different nowadays because there's so many theories out there. Was it maybe a little easier back then to get a little more accurate information, you think?
Well, it was really confusing because back in the day, I grew up in New York City, and the raw food movement was very more about spiritualism, and people were selling things like elk antler and animal piss, and I'm like, well, you want to find your tribe, right? So you wind up becoming attracted to finding your community, your collective, and I got like wrapped up into all that. Fortunately, it gave me the chance to keep having my convictions and keep sticking to being 100% vegan. Unfortunately, it led to just a lot of confusion with finding the right kind of people and the right kind of support.
What do you think was most instrumental in helping you do this? Was it some information in particular, or was it some people in particular?
I wanted to find a way to do this and make a living as opposed to it only being my lifestyle. After finding my people, if you will, on veganbodybuilding.com, on a bulletin board back in the day, just like bodybuilding.com, it was the vegan version, not a copy, in my opinion, the way that bodybuilding.com should be all along. Fine, I'll call you out. Why not? We saw a hole in the market on the internet. Nobody was selling protein and supplements that were vegan only. Stuff just didn't exist, right? So we did it. So now I was like, okay, cool. Well, this can be a thing. And that helped me stick with it. And it was all simple. This is not magic. This is not rocket science. It's like, get your protein from plants, eat healthfully, and the rest we'll figure it out along the way.
Yeah. And that led to you starting Vegan Proteins, right?
Right.
But prior to that, in your journey, you weren't thinking, I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Well, in hindsight, I honestly was. I had a lot of influence from my neighbor, who I call my uncle, and my dad and his family. Like, that's just what they do with their life. So there was definitely influence there that I didn't realize until I was like way too far in. Unfortunately, well, whatever. I wouldn't change this for the world.
So maybe you did it for somewhat selfish reasons.
Of course. Don't we all?
Yeah. And then eventually it came to be that it was also compassionate reasons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How did
100%.
that come to fruition? Did you see something? Did you go to an animal sanctuary or what?
It doesn't hurt. Like when your partners are already making that connection, right? Whether you're dating someone or, my wife, Danny, when we met, or your friends, and they're already there and they help you get there. For me, I think that made more of a difference than just finding community like vegan potlucks or whatever. It was the people that, it's like your inner circles, the people that you keep close to, I think, that help you make the change the most. For me, at least, that was that way.
That's really cool, because one of the questions I like to ask people is, do you have any tips or suggestions on how to get started? And one person said, find somebody who's doing this successfully and make friends with them. And it sounds like that's what you did.
Absolutely. Or they made friends with me, right? You're in the right place at the right time, and before you know it, you find your people.
So your wife, she was already vegan, right?
She was. When she was 15, she was like, this lobster should not be being boiled, and y'all are my family, and maybe stop mocking me, right? And then she just kept going with it, so.
And I guess that was probably a big influence, wasn't it?
Well, it's nice. I honestly, shamelessly can admit that I don't know that I had the courage to be with someone that wasn't already there once I was there. I admire others who do it. I don't know how you do it. I personally was not courageous enough with being in a relationship like that with someone else to go there. She fell into my lap, so to speak, like, oh my gosh, you're vegan, you're into bodybuilding, we're going on a vacation for bodybuilders together, for vegan bodybuilders, like, wow, this is great.
So you were already vegan when you met her?
Oh yeah.
That's another one of my questions. Could you be with somebody who isn't vegan?
I try to keep the diplomatic approach when I speak to people. I'm like, whatever, you're already in it with somebody and then you get there, or you meet someone and you want to be with them and then hopefully they get there, or maybe they never get there. I mean, I've met all kinds of people in all kinds of relationships. I don't really have advice in that department, unfortunately, but you'd hope that if something is that important to you, that eventually someone else will come around. Doesn't always work that way. You still got to hold out for hope, though.
Now, as far as the myths surrounding veganism, you know, like protein, the cliche one. Has there been anything about doing this that makes it a little harder to be fit?
I guess instead of answering that question, I'll answer a question with a question, which is one of my favorite things to do. If you would do anything to be your most competitive self and you had the solution, you had the answer, why would you not do it? Why would you make it harder on yourself to be as competitive as you possibly could be? There's a reason why all the smartest people in the world and the most competitive athletes in the world who don't get taken out are vegan. It's a no-brainer.
So there isn't anything about being vegan that's making it harder to be athletic at all?
No, I don't think so. I think people latch onto their reasons, whether it's God or whether it's family or whether it's just the way that they do things and they're like just doing it better and better over time. But why would you risk making your competition career a marathon or dying? How are you going to medal? What are you going to leave out in the field, right? Like, for me, it's the way to do this where I have the competitive edge, you know, regardless of my talent. And it's a way to do this where you're far less likely to have serious health problems. And you could also argue the point of like, whatever, I'm going to live fast, die hard, and I'm going to medal now. More power to you. That's fine. But if you have that kind of personality and you're willing to do that, why not do it again and again and again?
You know, I'm not a bodybuilder, and I wonder sometimes, like, why do people do that? It takes so much time, there's so much effort. I don't even know if it really helps in respect to longevity. What is the point, the purpose? But when it comes to being a vegan bodybuilder, it seems like that's got a lot of purpose. It's spelling in these myths and stereotypes, helping the animals, it's inspiring people. Is that some of what you're saying drives you, or some of what's driving you? You know, doing this for the animals. What's the difference in your drive? You were a bodybuilder before you went vegan. Do you have a more driven approach now because you're vegan?
Oh yeah, it's like the most selfish sport in the world. Yeah. Dude, the lengths that you got to go through to be a competitive athlete are obnoxious. Yeah. Why would you do it? Exactly. Unless you had a real legitimate reason to do it. I mean, I'm not here to shame nobody. Do your thing. For me, at least, like I feel so much better now because I get to do this thing and not feel an ounce of guilt. It's a very visual thing to see someone take their body to that level where most people just can't and arguably shouldn't take it, and you get to. You know what I mean? That feels really good. And it's nice to not feel guilty about it at all because it's a form of activism to show somebody that you can do that.
Who are some of the biggest inspirations along your journey?
The biggest inspirations on my bodybuilding journey?
Yeah, your vegan bodybuilding.
My vegan bodybuilding journey. Okay. Robert Cheek and I got to compete together. He, like I, is a facilitator and helps get others to do their thing and have a spotlight, to be in the limelight, to do this thing. So competing with him, and on a personal level, like he's like my bestie. This is my guy, you know? He was probably the most inspiring to me, you know, and still is. Like at this point, like we just keep going. We just keep making this thing larger than life. I would say he was the most inspiring person for me. It was a very small thing back then, and it's just kind of grown to be larger than life now, and it's just bigger than the both of us. But yeah, I would say him and I, like we did some really crazy things back then to make this thing what it is now.
And what is this thing now?
Past 6 years, we have been just hitting up the whole mainstream fitness world in the United States. Keep going to Olympia, we keep going to Arnold Classic, we keep going to FitCons, we keep going to the Fit Expo circuit, like just these circuits where it's out of control. And it's not just bodybuilding, right? It is just all kinds of athletes, natural athletes, enhanced athletes, all kinds of things. And we want to be there for social proof, and we have all kinds of ways to grow this thing. And we just keep showing up and just keep standing our ground. 6 years later with Vegan Strong, right? Saying like, look, if you remember nothing else from any of these conversations, plants have all the protein you need. Simple. That's it. Plain and simple. No question about it. And we hand out brochures showing different examples of how athletes eat and train. We have the same conversation with them over and over and over again until we like have no more voice left. And then we give them just tons of cool stuff like, look, these are supplements, these are food. No, ask us questions. Reach out to us in the future. So we did that for 6 years straight. Now, all of a sudden, the show comes out on the East Coast, Mr. America. I don't know anything about it, but the promoter does. And so I start looking into it. I'm like, whoa. So this show was around before the Arnold, and before the Olympia, and it didn't have the same build out, and now it's coming back. And instead of like, because the bodybuilding world, okay, for those of you who don't know, I'll give you some context. The bodybuilding world is very divided, right? You have tested athletes, and you have just the wild, wild west, where no one gets tested at all. The tested athletes are just like very protective over their sport, and it's very politically charged. And it's never really came to be anything that is just one big thing. But Mr. America's like, you know what? Screw this. Let's do it. And they did it for the past like 3 or 4 years. And they're trying to build that out on the East Coast. So we went to Vegan Strong and we're like, listen, like we're doing this thing. We used to do Plant Built back in the day. We had the largest team of vegan athletes in the world competing together in person. Can we do this thing together at Mr. America? They said yes. So we did it again last year. And now we get to do it again this year. And it ain't just bodybuilding anymore. It's bodybuilders, powerlifters, CrossFit athletes, kettlebell sport athletes, Olympic weightlifters, and we might even go into more sports. It's all about strength-based. We've been yapping on about this for like 10, 20 years. The endurance-based world just got it. The bodybuilding world, it's pervasive. They still don't get it. It's a lot different now than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, but there's something about that meat and potatoes crowd where they did not get it as fast as the endurance world got it. So this isn't me like being competitive against whatever. It's just the way that it goes. So that's it. Like we just keep pushing harder and harder in strength-based sports to make this undeniable. Like this has got to be a thing. Like we got to change the tide here.
I'm kind of like new to all this. Everybody kind of knows there's a difference between being natural and not natural. Are you all natural?
Yes. Never taken steroids. Never made any of that thing anything. Just 100% natural, even to a fault. So yes.
And where are we today?
Leaves and Roots Lounge? Yeah, they got kava, they got kratom, and they just like a really interesting vibe. And a buddy of ours who's competed with us before, who is always welcome back because it's like that important what we're doing. We welcome everyone back, no matter what. Because it ain't even about the relationships anymore, it's about what we're doing. Yeah, so Mark Hershkowitz got a chance to compete with us at least once. I can't remember if he competed twice or not. I honestly don't recall. But this is his bar, and it's so much fun. Because we just finished competing at the Vegan Health and Fitness Expo. Jeff Palmer, who's also competed with us back in the day, this is our 6th time doing this year, by the way, at Mr. America in October. We were out here for the Vegan Fitness Expo. And Jeff had this dream. Well, honestly, the first one that talked about this was Tori. And Tori was like, I want to do this thing. And we were all kind of like, oh, dude, like, do you really want like an only vegan bodybuilding show? Like, is that what we want to show people, that you need to, you know, like you can't compete against others, you can only compete against other vegans? And we didn't really like it at first, you know, to be completely transparent. But Jeff was like, nah, let's do this thing. And Jeff and Tori worked together for a while. So like, long story short, Jeff started doing this thing, and we got to the first one back in several years ago. And it just turned out to be less about competition and more about performance, which, let's get real here, that's what bodybuilding is, it's performance. You know, people shy away from the sport because they think they're competing against other people, and technically you are, and you get placed. But bodybuilding is as much about pageantry and performance as it is about competing against the other bodybuilders. You're going for like what your body is capable of. And I think that part of the competition was really able to shine through. Like even me, living and dying for the sport, couldn't get past that when I was afraid that vegans were going to be judged like we can only compete against each other, like there wasn't a need for this. But Jeff saw this thing through after Tori gave up on the idea, or I don't know how it exactly happened. I'm not privy to that conversation. All that I know is that he did it once, and he did it again this year, and it was pretty flippin' cool. And it was still obviously competitive, and these people brought it. Like these vegan athletes came here, and they just wow, like what physiques. And then we got to celebrate over here at this lounge that, you know, again, Mark, one of the athletes that's competed with us in the past, who may again in the future, I don't know. Coming through, and now we're getting to be here and hang and chill.
And everybody at this that's competing and all, they all take a polygraph and whatnot. So, I mean, that just adds to the limit. Is that a normal thing to do, the polygraph? Did they do that at Mr. Universe too, or? It's
a weird sport. There's just like so many weird things about it. Like at Mr. America, they're not gonna poly. Like they're like, just like, please don't do that to the athletes. It's the things that you have to do to pass this poly can drive you crazy. Your nerves are already running high. The polys cost money. For me, polying, if you are that convincing, you can pass poly. Put it that way. And the person who's testing you, if they aren't familiar with your sport, they don't exactly know how to prove like the questions that you're answering, whether they're true or false. They might have a hard time as a tester. And I'm like take my piss, I'll piss clean. But it's not good enough because you can cheat that and still piss clean. So it's like, how do you prove that someone's natural? It's like, honestly, so there is definitely some confusion around the polying stuff and this and that. But it's part of the sport, so you just do what you got to do. It's like, why would you game the system in the natural world when you could just go into the world where it doesn't really matter? You know what I mean? That's what kind of drives me crazy when athletes do that.
As far as your daily routine, what does a day of eating look like, and how do you work your exercise routine around that?
Well, I get in protein about 3 to 5 times a day with every meal, ideally. And I start my plate with vegetables and fruit and/or grains. And I eat enough to make sure that I'm working toward my goal, whether it's eating in a surplus to gain muscle, whether it's dieting down to be more conditioned, whether it's dieting down so that I could put my body in a surplus again so I can continue to gain more and more and more muscle without losing body fat. And then I just lick my wounds when I go and compete again, because you start losing muscle. And although muscles have memory, sometimes I try to think about what life would be like if I never competed and I could just continue to gain more muscle and gain more muscle. And every time I lost fat, I would not really lose muscle, but that's obviously not my path. I compete, so I got to lose a little bit of muscle again on stage. It's super extreme, and now I'm going off on about all that, but that has to do with the training, right? Because you train in a way where you have to get in enough protein and even a little bit more to make sure that you hold on to your muscle and you continue to get stronger and put on muscle. 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound of lean body mass. That's how much protein you need all the time. And if you're dieting down, it should be a little bit on the higher side. And you need to get that protein in every single day, because you're relying on those amino acids you're getting in from food day of to create an environment where you can build muscle and not lose muscle. And I don't think people understand that. I don't think they get it. But that is very important, to get in a certain amount of protein every day. And to not obsess over it, but to not pretend like you don't need to get in protein. There's all kinds of narratives of reversing disease, and I get it, you may need to go there, or living for a long period of time, living for a long time, I get it, but what's the purpose of living for a very long time if you can't beat down on your body and have fun with it? And if at the end, when you're 95 years old, you got weak, brittle bones and no muscle, what's the point of it? You didn't have fun, and your body aches all the time. You'll be aching anyway. It's hard to live a long time. It's not for the weak at all. You might as well take care of yourself and have strong bones and lots of healthy muscle, because you'll have a better quality of life. And to me, that's what bodybuilding is about.
What kind of routine do you have with your meals?
I like oatmeal and fruit in the morning. It's a go-to, and I'll usually down a protein shake because it's easy and convenient. And then around lunchtime, I'm usually grabbing a nice big bowl of veggies and maybe rice or whatever grain I'm in the mood for, quinoa or what have you. And then if I can, ideally, I'll make my own meats. I love making my own meats. I make my own chicken, I make my own meat, whatever. I get to control that. It's so much fun. But if I don't have time, I'll just buy something, And so grains, veggies, and some sort of plant-based meat. Simple as that. And you can experiment with all that. And you have access to it everywhere now. It's just crazy. And I'll do the same thing for dinner. And then something in between, some sort of snack. I'll munch on some pretzels or a piece of fruit or whatever. And then maybe to end the night, if I'm in the mood for something sweet, like a cookie or some ice cream or whatever, maybe not. But for the most part, I'm eating nutrient-dense foods and I'm eating whole foods. And I'm not ashamed in the slightest about foods that are just creature comforts or something I'm in the mood for, like scratch an itch or eat something sweet or savory or whatever, because that's what life is all about. In this arena, the health arena, those who are obsessed with health and clean eating, so to speak, they make these choices and they feel insanely guilty about it. They can't talk about it. It's not me at all. Whole foods, nutrient-dense foods, the majority of the time, always come back to it, but whatever, just enjoy food too. Why not?
Do you try to eat before you work out, or do you eat after you work out, or does that matter? First thing in the morning?
You should eat before you train. Even if you're on an extreme diet, you should eat before you train. Even if you are eating a lot or not eating much because you're trying to diet down, you should always eat before you train. Why? Because you're gonna have more energy. It's not calories in versus calories out only. It's the fact that if you eat a little bit, you have some fuel in your system. You know, you're not relying on your body's energy stores, and that fuel that you put in your system is going to help you burn more calories, is gonna help you to train harder. Not cut and dry, because calories really are king, and if you have a certain calorie target or goal for the day and you can't stick to it, then I guess it's okay to not eat before you train, but ideally you eat something before you train because you're just gonna have a better workout. Whether it's a cardio session, whether it's lifting weights or whatever, you're gonna do better when you eat before you train, typically. Low fat, high carb, moderate protein, but something.
As far as like your businesses, you have vegan proteins and plant built. So talk about those a little bit.
Vegan proteins is what we do, right? That is our business, and we coach others. We're an online vegan coaching company. We started as the world's only vegan supplement shop, and then we realized there was no longer a need for it. And then we moved on to being an online vegan coaching company. We work with people one-on-one, we work with people in groups, we provide one-off services like calculating people's macros and all kinds of stuff, and it's always going to be us behind the scenes, coaches, not any sort of whatever, like formula or something. For us, it's always personal. We work with people one-on-one always when they come to us. Yeah.
That's cool. And you do that over the internet some, or both, or I mean entirely, or what?
Oh yeah, everything's online for us. But if there's a athlete, all my clients are athletes, first of all. Sometimes they get embarrassed when I say it, or they don't feel like they're deserving of calling themselves an athlete. I can't believe vegan proteins considers it. Yes, like if you're exercising, you're an athlete, in my opinion. Simple as that. Own it, embody it. If one of our athletes is local, or if we just happen to be where they're going to be when we're traveling, and then we go to their meet, or we go to their bodybuilding show, or this or that, or we get to train with them, like on a cruise ship. It's wild. But so we're always open to, you know, just like Corinne and all the other vegan coaches out there, when you have an opportunity to connect with someone in person, by all means. However, yeah, typically what we do is almost exclusively online, and we're like in constant communication with whoever we work with.
It doesn't seem like it's viable, I guess. You know, rather than being there and talking to the person and seeing what they're doing and correcting them, are you doing all of that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we rely on video a lot. We have our clients video message us. We have our clients send us form checks to do video analysis on, and we put all their programming out online as well on a platform where they can check it all out, and they have video demonstrations, and it's all written out for them. So in a sense, we never really check out from being with them, and they never really check out from being with us. And there are some, of course, disadvantages to not being with someone live, but I'd like to think that the pros outweigh the cons when it comes to working with someone online.
So that's vegan proteins?
Yes.
And then there's plant built?
Yes.
So what's that about?
Plant built was its own wild child. It's nobody's intellectual property. It's not trademarked. It's not patented. We've had people like print shirts. We've had people take over and do all kinds of things. I remember one time we had somebody who actually made it like part of their social handle, and rather than getting all like fussy and businessy about it, we're like, they came to us and like, hey, you know, you want to coach me? And we're like, yeah, this is so cool. Like, can we coach you? Absolutely. You know, because again, nobody owns the word vegan. There's no person behind it. Nobody owns the word plant-built. You know, that's how I feel about it, right? And I think that keeping it as that kind of concept where it's not branded, it's not trademarked, it's not patented, we're not going to go after anyone for anything. On a personal level, that's what I believe keeps it going and makes it what it's going to be. Like no brand can absorb it. It just does its thing.
And what is its thing?
So right now we're powered by Vegan Strong. So we're the Vegan Strong plant-built team. And they make sure that what we do has all the support that it needs with the powers that be. And then Vegan Proteins, we come in and we manage it, Danny and I, and we compete together in person. Like 40 athletes strong this year in all kinds of sports. Like I was mentioning earlier in our conversation, all the powerlifters, the Olympic weightlifters, the bodybuilders, the kettlebell sport lifters, the CrossFitters. Everyone trusts this thing because it is literally like what we're doing is making an impact on a platform where we get a chance to compete against everyone and just have a good time in a supportive environment with good sportsmanship and real conversations and people who genuinely want to be as competitive as they can be on a team. And it's just so much fun. I don't even have words for it.
So it's a team. Yeah. And what is Vegan Strong? What's its role in all of that?
Vegan Strong gives it a sounding board, if you will, right? Helps us manage this thing, gives us access to all the resources and the people, the media, the people who support us behind the scenes, all of it. Gives us a chance to do this thing in a legitimate way. Because when we did it on our own, it just blew up. And like anything else that becomes larger than life, if you don't have the right kind of support behind it and it's not supporting you, you can't keep on doing it. And I was like, oh, geez. I wanted to just bury the dream. I had it with it. I was like, I can't. Fine, just let it die. And Danny was like, no, you don't. I was like, oh, Danny, come on. I was like, listen, Danny, all right, fine. Well, if we're gonna do this thing, I can't compete again. I gotta just not compete at all because I gotta focus on this thing. And she's like, yeah, you're gonna compete too. I'm like, oh, crap. Fine. We're gonna do it that way. Be careful what you ask for, Danny. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. Last year was just, I couldn't even describe to you how it went down. What I can tell you is that this year, the 6th time that we're gonna be doing this thing, for the first time ever, 2 bodies are going down. Scott Green, my man, he's having a baby, and he's trying to build his business up, and he built out the bones for kettlebell, and now it's an actual legitimate thing there. Some of the more old school people, vegans, mind you me, 2 out of the 3, 1 out of the 2, and whatever. Don't let me go off tangent here. It's a thing now. And Scott was like, dude, I can't do it this year. I'm like, that's okay. I can't do it either. We're the only 2 athletes since this first started that have competed with plant-built every single year.
They're all vegan though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because it sounded like you said vegans, and you said 1 out of 2, 2 out of 3. It almost sounded like you were saying that's how many were vegan.
No, I just think it's cool that the mainstream sports festival, Mr. America, has a vegan behind the scenes who's putting on the sport. Right. Steve Cotter is his name. Yeah, he was supposed to be on our team back in the day, and I hit him up and I was like, hey Steve, remember me? Come help me build this team, please. Like, I don't want to let this die. Like, I want to compete. Because the second I realized that we could break a record and compete in 6 sports this year. We've competed in 6 sports, but never at the same time. The most was ever 5. And this year, I'm like, you know what? I'm not giving up on this. When I heard that there was going to be an actual kettlebell sport event at Mr. America, I'm like, I'm not giving up on this idea. So I contacted Sarah Lee. She broke an Olympic world record with us. I'm like, Sarah, come on. And she was like, all right, I'll bite. And then I got the itch. I'm like, Sarah, come on. And then she stopped spacing out and she started giving me other athletes. And we got another kettlebell lifter from Norway that's going to come in with us. She's just crazy. So we're competing on kettlebell this year too. Without Scott, sadly, we'll compete in bodybuilding without me, sadly. And it's just, we have our own personal reasons. But yeah, it's going to be fun.
And how many teams are there competing?
6. Yeah, and strongman has never been this larger than life. We had like a couple bodies, I think. This year, we got someone flying in, a strongwoman from France, a strongwoman from Canada, several strongwomen and strongmen from here, just like serious talent, like serious heart. Like that team is just gonna kill it. And as these athletes are being recruited, I'm like, y'all are wacky. They do some crazy things. You know, you should start like having fun, like, oh yeah, Brady, like coming all the way through, like literally hauling that fire truck from where he lives all the way up to Atlantic City. He's gonna get there soon because he's that strong, he's that vegan. Like, you just get so excited and pumped up because it's fun. They do crazy feats of strength, you know, ripping phone books and kind of stuff. Like, come check these athletes out in October. It's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, and where's that at again?
Atlantic City, New Jersey, October 7th and 8th.
And how many different URLs are you dealing with here? You've got one for vegan proteins, plant-built. Do you have something else for maybe the Mr. America? Is that right?
Well, we work with Mark and Mr. America. Like we're helping build that thing out, right? Like we got our buddies from CrossFit to go there and build something out. We got our buddies from Kettlebell to go there and build something out. We're bringing them bodies, we're bringing them athletes. But no, like Vegan Strong is advocacy. Okay. Vegan Strong, they give us a chance to tour the United States. And then Plant Built is our competition team. Vegan Proteins is what we do when we coach athletes online, day and night. Yeah.
And then every year it's the same location, same month?
As far as I know, last time I spoke to Mark, he's looking to make this thing even bigger, go to a bigger casino and do it long term. Don't ask me how he's doing it, but I know he's doing it. So I trust that we're going to be able to keep doing this thing. And not only am I not giving up, like, this thing is going to keep going. Absolutely. As long as they keep saying what you're doing is making a difference and not reaching vegans, reaching others, and you get to keep doing this, I'm going to put my heart and soul into it, and I'm going to keep doing it. Well, Danny, Robert, Susan, our brand manager, like all of us, and all the athletes, just being like, yeah, they ain't doing this for selfish reasons. Like, we're not there, like we're all just trying to do something really crazy year after year.
And do you have any quotes you want to share?
Whether you think you can or you can't, you're probably right.
Do you have any last minute encouraging words?
2 insightful things that I like to leave people with that I've been thinking about a lot lately. Systems don't fail people, people fail people, and you will fail yourself. Build enough systems out for yourself that force you to keep getting back to being able to do what you want to do and need to do, and no matter how you feel, you'll continue to live the life that you want to live. Also, life has plans for you and you have plans for life, and no matter where it's taking you, your path, you can absolutely 100% unapologetically do what you want to do, whatever it is. For me personally, the message that I will always put out there is it's all about your physical health and your physical fitness. It's not anything, it is everything. Everything starts, stops, lives, and dies with that. Don't be afraid to take care of yourself no matter what, and always get back to taking care of yourself. You absolutely can.
I'm just curious how, if there's times when it seems impossible and you have some sort of magic bullet that just makes it inevitable. What is your magic bullet to make it inevitably happen that you're going to do this no matter what? Is it just your internal drive? How can somebody who's not like you do it? When somebody's coming to you, are you a part of their motivation, or are you just saying, hey, do it like this?
Both. Yeah. I'm not going to push someone into being a motivated person to push them away from what they need to do if they're at a point in their life for whatever reason where they can't find it. That is just so cruel, right? So like, and plus you can get addicted to being motivated and then you ain't doing the thing. You know what I mean? And it's not about happiness, it's not about motivation. It's certainly nice when it's there, but if that's the thing that's gonna start and stop you, you're not gonna keep going. So it's just, no one can live like that. And no one should have to be like that to keep the machine going when it comes to the fitness world. Don't get me wrong, you need that. You absolutely need it. But it's not what's going to keep you going. Like anything else that you want to be an expert in, that you want to do forever, and you want to do better than you could ever imagine you were able to do it. Like, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep going. You either have it or you don't. And again, that's where I get back to the life thing and the system thing. Like, don't be afraid to be motivated. Don't be afraid to be happy. Like, why the hell not? It's not going to be the thing that starts you, keeps you going, and stops you, no matter what. It's just going to be a part of your, it's going to be part of your physical health and physical fitness, but it's not going to be like your forever. So you got to find a way to move past that idea that that's going to be the thing that's going to get you there. I'd like to say that it's going to be the thing that gets you inspired. I like to say that it's going to be the thing that puts you on your path, but it's not always. So it's a matter of just like knowing that you could do this thing because it's important to take care of yourself. Yeah.
Do you have any like tips for somebody to get started who's like me doing literally nothing?
Yes, absolutely. Well, start small and work your way up. Right? Everybody wants, I could train 7 days a week and I could eat nothing but fruits and vegetables. Okay, that's great. Can you do me a favor and tell me that you're going to lift for 30 minutes twice a week? Yes? 15, 30 minutes twice a week? Yes? Okay. All right, good. Are you going to eat vegetables every day? And when you're not, are you going to get back to eating vegetables as often as possible, like every week? Yes? Okay, good. Are you going to make a commitment to eat protein? Like, just always get back to getting in, focusing on protein instead of pretending like it's just magically going to happen? You know, especially as a vegan, people affect people. The mainstream fitness world just got it. They just started eating more protein. Vegans, so much ridiculousness around it that there's like this fear that you don't even want to feel. And it just winds up screwing you up because plants have plenty of protein. So just like commit to making sure you get your protein in. You would do the same thing if you weren't a vegan and you're an athlete. Why would you not do that as a vegan? Yeah. Seriously, this is just, again, this is not anything that's complicated. This is simple stuff, you know? Keep it simple.
Keep protein on the brain, keep fruits and vegetables on the brain. Twice a week, 15, 30 minutes, you say, 30 minutes actually. I don't want to hurt myself. Like any suggestions, like, just maybe some push-ups?
This is a sticking point for me because you get older and your spine and aging and you got an ache here and a ding there and you just want everything to be perfect. Listen, movement heals and lifting is movement, and although it hurts, you will get stronger. So you just don't be afraid to start lifting. It's just so tragic. You're gonna age and be in pain anyway. You might as well be in pain and have a body that will protect you against your body breaking down. So please don't be afraid to lift. Seriously, no matter what you're dealing with, you can find a way.
Part of me also dreads the idea of having to like warm up to it and stretch and all that. And is there a lot of like pre-workout routine that's probably necessary to do this properly, or can I just go start lifting?
It depends on the person, but I think as long as you take like a solid 5 minutes to get your heart rate going and start to just move your joints a little bit gently with some just quick short bursts of stretching, dynamic stretching you call it, like 2 count holds, you're fine. 5 minutes, 5 minutes, that's it. Give me 5 minutes of just like warming up your heart rate a little bit and getting your joints moving just a little bit. And then, 15, 30 minutes of lifting twice a week. Chances are you're gonna feel so good, you're probably gonna wind up doing the average long-term, what you need to do, which is 30 to 45 minutes for 3 to 4 times a week. That's all anybody really needs. If you're doing more than that, even as a competitive athlete, it's a lot of times it's not even necessary.
Yeah.
And
this reminds me, like I've heard before, like, and this is in regard to any habit you're trying to create, set small goals that are achievable. Is that the same? Do you believe in that?
Oh yeah.
Do you prefer somebody kind of already be in motion when they come to you, or do you sometimes just take people and have no problem with taking people that are literally doing nothing?
Yeah, that. It's up to the person. So yeah, some people, again, people are different. People come from all kinds of starting points. Sometimes people feel like they need to prove it to themselves that they can do it before they work with another person. Sometimes people feel like they need to get as much as they can get done on their own without the help of another person, and then they'll work with you. Some people absolutely need that person from the beginning to be able to do it. And I like to tell our athletes that you never needed me in the first place. I like to just give them this kind of analogy. Like, I'm like the coach and the voice and the thought inside your head, and then you never needed me in the first place, and then you just take this information, you take this knowledge, you take the way that you made this a routine, and it was you the whole time. Goodbye, you're wonderful, you got this for the rest of your life. However, I'm that coach that's going to be with you while you're working with me to learn more about your lifestyle, more about how this can become routine and you can adapt to it no matter what, and we're going to get there together. We're a team, but it's always you. It's always you. You were always able to do this. These are the resources. I'm part of what you needed to get this done because that's what you hired me for. Yeah.
I look forward to the very likely possibility of seeing you again in October.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.